Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of April 5th, 2026. First up, I have exciting news to share. The Celestial Insights podcast was named one of the 15 best celestial podcasts by FeedSpot Podcasts. When ranking these podcasts, they considered not only their following, but engagement, ratings, review, freshness, and overall influence in the celestial space. This was announced on March 18th, 2026, as Venus in Aries was conjuncting my moon in the 10th house of my career. So thank you, FeedSpot Podcasts. There's a link in the show notes if you want to read about it. The theme of this week is chain reaction, and there are three big things I want you to think about as we navigate this week. The first is that Mars enters Aries on April 9th through May 18th, and this is a big shift in tone. Mars is finally coming back to its home sign where it can do what it does with ease. So energetically, we're going to turn up the volume on Mars themes. Action, energy, drive, courage, conflict, and yes, even sometimes aggression and violence. Aries is the archetype of the warrior. This is the boxer, the firefighter running into a burning building while everyone else is running out. The soldier on the front lines. It's instinctual energy and it doesn't overthink things. It just moves. There's a confidence here, a willingness to act and sometimes even confront head on. I think about John McClane in Die Hard, the movie. The scrappy, wisecracking, I'll handle it type that's innovative, a pioneer, just figures things out. Mars in Aries doesn't wait for permission, it just goes for it. Now, Mars's other home sign is Scorpio, where there's like deep consideration, investigation, and research before taking action. With Aries, it's just instinctual. There's also raw independence. Aries energy doesn't want to manage or be controlled. It wants autonomy. And if you have a child with Mars in Aries, or you yourself have this placement, you're probably nodding along. It wants to lead or, at minimum, not be told what to do. There's a competitive edge as well with this energy. This is don't come for me unless I send for you kind of energy. And someone with Mars in Aries, assuming it's in a supportive energy, meaning the planets around it, its placements in the natal chart, where someone has an ease and comfort with this martial energy, it's not like they go around knocking people out. But if you come for them, they are not going to back down. There's always a shadow side of every energy. And Mars is going to Mars no matter what sign it's in. And in Aries, the shadow can be a quick move towards conflict as a first response for being poked rather than a last response, like impulsivity, reactivity, acting before thinking, that instinctual, just do it. There can be a comfort and even an internal desire to face confrontations head on and even get violent. Aries is a fire sign. Mars is really comfortable, actually, in all of the fire signs. Fire can warm, it can create, but it also can burn uncontrollably if it's not directed. This is part of why Charla Goodnight and I are having the Cosmic Fire Challenge starting on Thursday of this week, the day Mars enters Aries, to help people direct that martial energy, to help people direct the fire. Now, this Mars and Aries transit is going to show up in interesting ways because as soon as Mars enters Aries, it starts to move towards Neptune for a conjunction, and Neptune's at 2 degrees. So it's immediate. The energy of Aries starting to pull Mars in. So the fight becomes infused with something Neptunian. Ideals, beliefs, spirituality, illusion, confusion, or deception. Now, motivation can feel very inspired, like you're being guided towards something bigger. This is why we're combining the astrology with the workouts. But what you're really fighting for can actually be righteous, misguided, and so discernment is really going to be important over this transit of Mars and Aries to think about, is this battle worth entering? And this is really important because Mars is going to meet Saturn on April 19th. Saturn is the planet of consequences, karma. Mars is the gas, Saturn's the brake. It puts boundaries up on that martial energy. So astrologers around the world are watching for April 19th when Mars and Saturn meet, because Mars is really strong in its home sign. It meets Saturn, which is in fall in Aries, very uncomfortable. This can look like pressure being applied to weak structures and leadership. Now, with Mars transits, they often come in early, like 2 or 3 days before the actual conjunction. There'll always be events on the conjunction, but you may start feeling this energy building as early as Monday. So notice if you're feeling internal pressure, agitation, a sense that you need to move or address something. On a personal level, you can work with this consciously. Where can you take initiative, be brave, stop waiting, and actually move? All the planets are direct. This is incredible energies for starting something new, asserting yourself, or advocating for your needs. But awareness is really important. Are you acting from clarity or from impulse? Are you responding or reacting? So take a look at your chart. Where do you have Aries? This is the area of your life that is getting activated. Which houses do you have Aries in? House or houses? There may be friction there, a challenge, or just a surge of energy that asks you to engage more directly. Be really conscious if it's one of the angles. If you're an Aries rising, be especially careful with something physical. Watch your energy levels. Be careful with sharp objects, fire, and speed. If you're a Libra rising, watch out for getting into head-on-head conflicts with your spouse, your best friends, your business partners, or open enemies. If you're a Cancer rising, there is a 10th house energy to this. So be extra mindful at work about getting into conflicts with people. If you're a Capricorn rising, at home, be extra careful with fire and knives and getting into it with your family members. Now, collectively, this can look like heightened conflict. So move through this transit with intention. This Aries season has so much fire, and if you're ready to turn it into real momentum, join the Cosmic Fire Up Challenge. It's 5 weeks of astrology with me and movement with Charla Goodnight. It's simple, energizing, and the investment is just $30. Check the link in the show notes. We start April 9th. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that we have a last quarter moon at 20 degrees of Capricorn. It's April 9th on the west coast of the United States, but it may be April 10th where you are. The sun is at 20 degrees of Aries, the moon at 20 Capricorn. This is a tense square, and last quarter moons are a turning point in the lunar cycle. It's called the crisis of consciousness, where something needs to be addressed before we can move to the next new moon. There's a psychological integration about what has came before it since the new moon. The new moon of this cycle was in Pisces, and it can be a time to reap rewards or consequences. Now, the sun in Aries is really strong. It's exalted, lifted up, confident, and decisive. It's the sign of its exaltation, and the sun rules leader figures. This is an archetype of an individual who just steps forward, is willing to enter the ring. And the Sabian symbol says it clearly. It's a boxer enters the ring. That's courage, but it also can be ego. Exaltation can be a sign of arrogance on the shadow if it's unchecked. So there's leadership energy, but it's very self-directed. Now, the moon in Capricorn is in the sign of its detriment, as far away from home as it can be, in exile. It's also likened to a man cast out of his estate with no hopes to return by William Lilly. That's how he describes detriment. The moon desires to feel safe, supported, and secure. But Capricorn is concerned with duty, responsibility, structure, and hierarchies. So there's a natural tension between the planet and the sign. Its home sign is Cancer, which is ooey gooey, give me a hug, nestle with me on the couch. So the people and leadership are in this tense square. Emotional needs come to a crossroads with practical demands. The boss may be asking you for more and more without accounting for the human cost it is for you. This could be pressure for work, having to stay late, having to travel or work during the weekends, and as a result, you feel like you need to neglect your family or your own well-being or what actually nourishes you. Collectively, we may see friction between the public. The moon represents the public and those in power. Capricorn rules governments, institutions, corporations, infrastructure, the elderly. So themes about leadership's effectiveness and their accountability can come into focus. People are questioning, is what's happening working? Are we being well led? Is there a plan? The moon's Sabian symbol is a relay race. It's people working together where one passes the baton on to the other. They have to work together. They have to coordinate. There has to be trust between them. And we're moving towards a new moon in Aries that is going to be at the 27th degree, almost to the end of the sign next week. And there's going to be a heavy concentration of planets in Aries at that time. I believe it's 6. It is so much. It is like a forest fire, a lot of initiating energy. And we're watching this period closely because when you combine in that Mars with Saturn and Neptune, and it is going to be a moment where something builds and then gives. This is not meant to cause fear. It's for you to be aware of this intensity. It could show up somewhere in the world in some kind of military coup or mutiny on the bounty type thing, where the rank and file push against leadership that's perceived as weak and ineffective. On a practical level, I've been saying this for 2 years. It's a good idea to be more prepared than usual, not out of fear, but just in case. The chances of a military coup in the U.S. would seem ridiculous before this war started, but I wouldn't be shocked. I have been suggesting to stay stocked up on like 2 weeks worth of food, water. Keep your prescriptions current. Don't wait till the last minute to order them. Keep devices charged. Your car with at least half a tank of gas if you can, to help you move through this time of more ease if something happens where we're stuck in our houses for a little bit. Now, there are fuel shortages happening around the world where it's almost like a COVID type containment that's very symbolic of Mars meeting Saturn. And there's going to be more and more about limiting people's movement because of the lack of fuel for countries that are running out. There's a higher possibility of revolutions and overthrow. And with all this Aries, it might be a military before the end of April. So can you stay grounded in your body while everything around us is moving so quickly and it's bonkers? If you're trying to understand what's happening globally, you're likely not going to find it on mainstream news in the US. So I would look to outside outlets like the BBC News, Reuters, the Associated Press, Al Jazeera, The Guardian are just a few suggestions. There are outlets all over the world. There are also some great independent journalists like Jessica Yellin, The Midas Touch. There's so many. Don Lemon is doing great work. So you can look at whatever sources align with you. And it may not happen the way people imagine, but something's going to be shifting and giving way. And we are going to be seeing like, I can't believe this just happened. I can't believe this just happened again and again and again through the month of April. So try not to get into fear too much. I've been like just spiritually preparing myself as a Taurus Cancer rising for things to get a little bit out of control. I keep telling myself the serenity prayer. Think about what I can control and can't control and know the difference. I can stock up a little bit so that I'm prepared. And I'm getting the feeling that there may be a little bit of chaos, but then calm. Honestly, I'm not feeling a lot of fear around it, just that it's intense, as well as doing the Cosmic Fire Challenge. I feel like the movement of the body is going to really help me feel like I'm empowered despite what's going on around myself. On a personal level, the last quarter moon asks you where you're feeling the tension between what is being asked of you and what you actually need, where are you being called to step up, and where do you need better support. This is a closing chapter before a fiery new beginning. In terms of the moon phase families, these 27-month cycles, this one began on January 11th, 2024, when the sun and the moon were both at 20 degrees of Capricorn. What was going on in your life at that time? What was seeded? See if you can look back in your journals and remember, was there an ongoing story that had a pivot point 9 months later where the sun was in Libra and the moon was in Capricorn, both at 17 degrees on October 10th, 2024. The full moon of this cycle, where the sun was in Cancer and the moon was in Capricorn, on July 10th, 2025, both of the luminaries were at 18 degrees. The last quarter moon of this cycle, where the sun was in Aries and the moon was in Capricorn, is happening this Thursday, April 9th, where they're both at 20 degrees as well. The last thing I want to make you aware of is a teaching. It's called dispositorship, and it can help you understand why everything feels like it's funneling in a certain direction right now. Every sign has a planetary ruler. When a planet is traveling through that sign, it reports to the sign's ruler. The ruler becomes the manager, decision maker, and the one calling the shots for the planet. So, for example, any planet moving through Aries has to answer to Mars. What's happening now? The sun is in Aries, so it's reporting into Mars. Right now, Mars is in Pisces, but when Mars gets into Aries, the sun will be reporting into Mars in Aries. Neptune in Aries is reporting into Mars. So is Saturn. Mercury will soon do the same. And this new moon in Aries is also reporting into Mars. So everything in Aries is essentially asking Mars, what do we do? How do we act? Where do we go? And Mars is like the central command. And by its nature, it's about action, conflict, movement, courage, and sometimes confrontation. So this can give you the understanding about why things feel so heightened, active, and reactive right now. And right now, Mars is in Pisces, so it's like all over the place, can't shoot straight, doing one thing today, doing another thing tomorrow. It's like wobbly. But once it gets into Aries, it's going to be more direct and effective and ready to start something new. Now, to help you to understand this on a deeper level, I'm going to give you some insight into other planets. If you don't understand it, don't worry. You can listen to this again, or maybe it's not important for you to understand it. This is a little bit more advanced astrology. So the planet Jupiter right now is in Cancer until the end of June. Cancer is ruled by the moon, so Jupiter reports into the moon. And the moon at this last quarter phase is in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So Jupiter is reporting to the moon in Capricorn. Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. So now the moon is reporting into Saturn. Saturn is into Aries, and Mars rules Aries. So essentially, although Jupiter is in Cancer, following the chain of command, it's ultimately reporting into Mars and Aries. So even planets that aren't directly in Aries are still feeding into Mars through this chains. This is what we call a final dispositor, when you follow the rulership trail all the way down and everything funnels right into one planet. And so for right now in the sky, it's Mars. And that's why everything feels so big and like there's such a chain reaction to things. Everything leads back to action. Now, one thing that's nice and a nice counterbalance is that Venus is in Taurus. It's home sign. Uranus is also in Taurus, so reporting into Venus. Venus is strong. It can hold its own ground. So Mars is saying, go, act, push, confront. Venus is saying, wait a minute, slow down, stabilize, ground, connect, care for others. Think about how you are resourced. So remember to tend to your body, your resources, share where you can, create moments of calm and beauty, and stay rooted even when things feel chaotic. Now, as Venus moves closer and closer to Uranus, there could be stress or surprises around resources, money, or stability. You can do a great exercise. Look at your chart, look at each of your planets in your chart and see who do they report to, and go all the way down the chain. You can look at your moon. What sign is it in? Who rules this sign? Then go to that ruler. What sign is that planet in? Who rules that sign? And just keep following the chain. Eventually, you may land on a planet that's in its own sign. That's called the final dispositor, and it has a lot to say in your chart. Or you might have something like mutual reception. This is what I have in my chart. I have Venus in Gemini and Mercury in Taurus, and then all the other planets funnel into those two signs. Venus is ruled by Taurus and Mercury is ruled by Gemini. So they are in mutual reception. They can kind of change places, support each other. There's a loop instead of an end point. They can Freaky Friday. So just know not everyone has a final dispositor, but it can give you some insight on your inner wiring. The theme of the episode is chain reaction, and the title comes from the movie by the same name, where Keanu Reeves plays a scientist caught in the fallout of a breakthrough energy experiment. What starts as an innovation, something meant to change the world for the better, quickly turns into a cascade of consequences. One event triggers another event, and suddenly things start moving faster than anyone can control. That's the essence of chain reaction. It starts, it's hard to stop. And astrologically, we're seeing this with the war in the Middle East. And the president of the United States has been standing on stages saying that he had no idea that Iran was going to attack other countries like the UAE and Bahrain, and like standing there looking perplexed. This is exactly the type of chain reaction that people who have intelligence and strategy and know history would have already figured out. But a lot of the senior command in the military was fired as soon as this administration came into power, because all that matters is loyalty to the president. Now, with Mars in Aries, everything is accelerating. Action leads to reaction. Reaction leads to escalation. Mars meets Neptune, and this is where things get fuzzy, complex. Neptune brings in themes of invisibility, illusion, inspiration, and also advanced or hidden technologies. So we may see something come to light where some new weapon we've never seen before or other type of innovation that's groundbreaking can come into our conscious attention. As soon as Mars leaves Neptune, it starts to apply to Saturn. And then things get serious. There's potentially something that's both dangerous and powerful. Mars and Saturn are traditionally the malefics, the big baddie. So pay attention to what's being revealed. Can you try to move not from a place of fear, but from a place of observation? Because we're going to see new tools, new strategies, and new forms of power can emerge quickly. New power players can come on the scene. The world is holding its breath, hoping that China does not take the opportunity with all this chaos happening in the Middle East to make a move on Taiwan. Like Joe Kent has been making the rounds. He's the conscientious objector who quit the administration because he said Iran was no imminent threat to the United States. So with the idea of chain of command is also involved with chain reaction. Who is taking orders from whom? Who's actually in charge? When everything goes back to Mars, it brings up questions about leadership and authority. This is a time where rank and file can push back, with Mars meeting Saturn in Aries. The mutiny on the bounty energy may be what we're seeing. Not necessarily everywhere or in a way you'd imagine it to happen, but somewhere in the world we may see a breaking point, and possibly more than one, where the military or even people rise up against their governments. In science, when we think about chain reaction, it's a chemical or nuclear process where one event triggers another in a self-sustaining cycle. And someone quit the UN this week talking about how they're talking about nuclear weapons, and they put their career on the line to raise the alarm about what is going on behind the scenes and bring awareness. So everybody, whether they're saying it out loud or just internally, is questioning, how far can this go? Things are escalating out of control, and I'm recording this early. So a lot has likely happened since the full moon. Now, chain reactions are not inherently negative. They can be creative, healing, awakening. One courageous action can inspire another. I'm thinking about the movie Norma Ray, where Sally Field got up on that table and put her sign up in the air, putting her body, her life, her job on the line. When one person steps up, that Aries person who goes first, they can give others permission to do the same. The energy spreads, momentum builds. So you can think about, what chain reactions are you seeing? Are you participating in anything? What are you setting into motion consciously or unconsciously? Is there a negative cycle that you can interrupt and initiate a positive one? Because once you get going, you can keep going. And that's why the Cosmic Fire Challenge this week is going to help people get going, to put in new habits. And I'm talking to myself because I've been too sedentary. If you're an astrologer ready to deepen your skills and grow your practice, I'm mentoring a small group through the Mentorship Program with the Organization of Professional Astrology. We'll meet monthly for 6 months to explore astrology practices, consultation skills, and building a sustainable business. If you'd like guidance, community, and support from someone who's walked the path, learn more at the link in the show notes. On Sunday, the word of the day is upheaval. I got a song with each word this week, and the song is Mad World by Tears for Fears. On this day, the Scorpio Moon will oppose Uranus in Taurus. This is the axis of pleasure, power, and resources. The moon is in fall in this sign, and every time for the last 7 years since 2018, except for a brief period last year when Uranus was in Gemini, when the moon went into Scorpio, it opposed Uranus. So there was some kind of little upheaval experienced by people with fixed signs or people collectively. And there could be big upheaval on this day. It could be secrets revealed around pleasure, power, resources that make people feel outraged. The 28th degree is almost to the end of the sign. It's the degree of crisis and decay. The Aries Sun is squaring Jupiter in Cancer. They're both at 16 degrees. Cancer is an emotional sign. People may be reactive, overly protective, acting on feelings and urgency. If you have little kids, watch what's going on with them. The moon enters Sagittarius at 4:31 p.m. Pacific time. This is where people start feeling passionate, righteous. Their belief systems and philosophies are in focus. And the moon makes a hammer of Thor for a few hours with that sun square Jupiter. So people are ready to knock the tops off of a mountain. It may be their leader. They have righteous indignation. And it also can be a sign of movement where Sag gets going. Great day to go for a hike or something to move your energy. On Monday, the word of the day is gather. I got the Dutch hymn, We Gathered Together. It's from the 1600s. It's often sung in churches. It's a song of spiritual unity that has a prayerful tone. It's we gather together to ask the Lord's blessing. He chastens and hastens his will to make known. The wicked oppressing now cease from distressing. Sing praises to his name. He forgets not his own. This is the day that Venus in Taurus sextiles the North Node in Pisces at 8 degrees. This is really supportive energy. The North Node has associations with groups and people gathering together in a supportive Taurian way where people may be gathering resources to help those in need. And Pisces has associations with the homeless, people who are suffering. This can be symbolic of many countries around the world are helping Cuba because the Trump administration had a blockade on them, although now they're allowing some resources in. There could be countries in the Middle East that are needing some support. The moon in Sagittarius squares the nodes, the South Node at 8 Virgo, the North Node at 8 Pisces. This can be symbolic of, with the South Node in Virgo, people going into their closets and pulling out stuff to the North Node in Pisces to give to people who are less fortunate or suffered some kind of problem where they don't have resources, and they could be going to a church. Sagittarius has associations with religion. On Tuesday, the word of the day is howl. The song is Inner City Blues by Marvin Gaye, but the line, makes me want to holler, dun, 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 was what was really coming to me. On this day, Mercury is semi-square Pluto in Aquarius. This is Mercury in Pisces. And it can just bring in this internal rage about what is happening in the world. I mean, this war is just insane. The human toll, what's happening to the planet, it's impacting people around the world. Saturn and Neptune met at 0 Aries, a world point. People around the world are suffering. There's lack of fuel and water and more because of war. The moon in Sagittarius squares Mercury in Pisces, both at 20 degrees, and you may hear someone just yell. I'm getting damn, 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 like Florida in Good Times. There's a famous scene where she's yelling. She's so frustrated about the difficulties of life. On Wednesday, the word of the day is crusade. The song is Roar by Katy Perry. The Sagittarius Moon squares Mars in Pisces, both at 28 degrees of the respective sign. So people are mad. They're ready to go on a crusade with Neptune and Aries. They're ready to war. The moon moves into Capricorn at 5:04 a.m. Pacific time. And the thoughts go to governments, big businesses, the elderly. People can be getting pretty heated. Mars in Pisces sextiles Uranus and Taurus at 29 degrees of each of the respective signs. This is a big deal. This may be where we see some kind of innovation around some kind of technology that's like power or conflict. It also could be, this gives symbology of like rushing water, fighting on the seas. Now, internally, you can be driven to create something innovative with sextiles and yin signs. The water and earth signs are yin. You can make your own magic, but there is some kind of urgency to get going with this. And then the moon in Capricorn squares Neptune in Aries at 2 degrees, and then Saturn in Aries at 6 degrees. So there's this internal feelings of duty, obligation, pressure that at first leave people feeling confused, or they may be spiritually impassioned, and then they are angry and they may be feeling blocked with Saturn. Like they're told, you're only allowed to leave the house a certain amount of times. You're only allowed this much gas. People are in endless lines in certain parts of the world to get fuel because of this war. On Thursday, the word of the day is launch. The song is Let 'Em Know by T.I. This is a new song. It is a banger, a bop, and it will really get you moving. There's energy that's direct, active, and confident as Mars enters the sign of Aries. I wrote down Capri Sun and orange juice. So I don't know if there's going to be some news about Florida or launching some kind of Elon Musk's spacecraft or what is going on with that. If you see something, please let me know. The Capricorn Moon opposes Jupiter and Cancer. They're both at 16 degrees. So people can feel like emotional connection is a little bit hard to come by, or you're like mad at your partner, but you want to make up, but you don't want pride is keeping you from stopping. At the last quarter moon where the sun is in Aries and the moon is in Capricorn at 9:51 p.m. Pacific time, you may be like, get the courage to say, okay, enough already. I'll go and give you the hug and I'll take the first step to make up. Or if you and your kid had a problem, it could be the same sort of situation. On Friday, the word of the day is CLOUT. The song is First Class by Jack Harlow. Now, CLOUT, you put in the hard work and you can achieve something. And that may be what you're feeling at this last quarter moon. But there's also energy of a blow to the head with the Capricorn Moon square Chiron and Aries at 26 degrees of Aries. This can be figuratively, where the head is the head of an organization, or it can be literal, where you bump your head into a cabinet with Chiron and Aries. The Aquarius Moon begins at 4:55 p.m. Pacific time. Now we're looking at a group in our focus, or an organization. It could be a society, a group of people. This is a great time to get together with friends for connection and collaboration. Aquarius is an air sign. Air signs communicate and connect. On Saturday, the word of the day is squeeze. Ice, Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice was playing in my head. The moon meets Pluto at 5 degrees of Aquarius. There could be some problem with ice and some people at an airport. I've been seeing people like just shouting nasty things at them as they just stand around and do nothing and get paid while the TSA agents are not getting paid. And the moon in Aquarius will square Venus and Taurus. So this will be really interesting to see what happens. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.